Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I wanted to do like a unique intro to this video because I just want to take a minute to really talk about what has been happening in the last really 3 to 4 months on Bitcoin and Litecoin. We're going to talk about it. You'll hear in the interview, Satoshi Sarah. She kind of explains, what are ordinals, what are inscriptions, what are NFTs, what are the differences, and I know within the community there's been kind of some pushback, like particularly within Bitcoin. I know there are a lot of Litecoiners that feel like this isn't really the pure Litecoin, or it's not peer-to-peer cash, and so therefore these transactions are somehow invalid. And I have been from the beginning just very staunch about the fact that if these blockchains are not dictated, I don't get to dictate how people use the blockchain. Like if the people are making transactions and they're paying the on-chain fees, and particularly a lot of these users, they're downloading the nodes. Our MWeb transactions are up since inscriptions became a thing because more people have nodes. They're using Litecoin Core. And I think we need to, I've talked about culture and community a lot, and I like to think that our Wednesday spaces is a bit of developing that culture, that open exchange where we try to be open-minded. We want to talk through things, and I certainly don't want to dictate how you feel about these things, but it's important that we have an open mind and understand that a free market is truly to allow these tools to be used how somebody wants to use them. It may not feel right in the short term, but if we get to the point where we feel it's okay that some vocal disruptors decide that they want to shut down certain use cases for Litecoin, or they want to manipulate the protocol in order to disincentivize certain ways to work, I think it's a really weird road to go down, and I don't like the idea of censoring anything that goes onto these blockchains, certainly in a legitimate way. So again, these people they're downloading nodes, they're paying the fees to be on here, and the reality is it's brought on a fresh new influx of users to Litecoin that just today, it's May 5th, and it's almost like it's something I've been waiting to see, and I'm really excited about. I think it's almost a turning point. Litecoin is outpacing Bitcoin in on-chain transactions. There are more transactions happening on Litecoin, and the fee to send a Litecoin is 0.1 pennies. It's a tenth of a penny to send on Litecoin. It's $7 to send on Bitcoin. And you're getting more transactions on Litecoin, even at that low, to show you how we still have capacity. We still aren't filling up blocks. Even though we have more transactions than Bitcoin, we still don't even have like 50% full blocks. So that's the key, right? That's why we all feel that Litecoin is going to be a long-term superior chain to Bitcoin because it will be more usable. You're going to be able to actually use it in your day-to-day life, regardless of how much volume appears to be going on here. So I just want to really stress that these are people downloading nodes. They're finding a new fun ways to build communities on Litecoin and engagement that is natural. It's organic. This isn't something that's forced. There's no VC company behind it or something like that. And so I just want to make sure we all keep an open mind. And I know a lot of you feel that way too. And I understand why it feels uncomfortable and kind of against the ethos, but at the end of the day, people are allowed to do what they want to do. It's a free speech, free market world. And I would rather encourage that, even if I'm uncomfortable with it. So it's going to be fun. We're going to keep building this community, and this is a big part of it. So that's one thing I want to mention. The other thing is that I've mentioned in the past, you guys know I do a couple Cake Pay commercials. And I really just want to urge you guys to use Cake Pay. So Cake Wallet they sponsored my show for a couple months last year. And then I told them, I'm going to take a break. I just wasn't in the energy to just create content all the time. And I took a long break. I was really about a year where I wasn't really doing much. And I decided I want to get back into it. And I reached back out to them, say, hey, would you guys be open to sponsoring the show again? And they were on board, no hesitation. They've been so supportive of just not only me, but just I think Litecoin in general. They have Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Monero on their platform, right? And if you go to Cake Pay and use that tool. I had some commercials in the other one. I'll post one at the end of this video too, just to show you how easy it is. But they had some statistics recently about usage. And granted, CakePay is a Monero wallet first. It's been primarily a Monero community. 81% of their CakePay purchases were using Monero, 17% were Bitcoin, and 2% were Litecoin. And so I really want to challenge anybody who watches this to get the wallet, throw in a few bucks, and try it out. Make, I think, one transaction a week using CakePay. You save every time I use it, I save like 3%. So if I'm going to Home Depot or AutoZone or take the family to like Bob Evans or something like that, it's a discount every single time you spend your money. And we don't have Litecoin card anymore. It's a great option. You don't have to reveal your KYC, all that type of stuff. So I'm going to post the video at the end, but I'll put a link in the thing. Go to CakePay. They're very cool. I met those guys at the Litecoin Summit. Just the nicest people that really have the right mindset about using these tools. All right. That was my very long intro. I apologize. So I'm going to put the Satoshi Sarah interview up, give it a listen. I might even build an NFT collection to give out to a lot of you guys that come into the spaces and some of the longtime Litecoiners that to me deserve a bit of a badge of honor. Like they're the OGs, you know what I'm saying? So, all right, enjoy it and have a good Cinco de Mayo. Have a margarita and enjoy spring and have a good year. All right, bye. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode on Litecoin Underground. We are going to get into something today that has I think I've been trying not to learn about it because for some reason, I'm denying that it exists or something like that. And that we're having to come to terms with the fact that there's something that's here and is never going away. And that is these NFTs, Ordinals, tokens, whatever it might be. So I have a lot to learn about it. I don't know. I was reading a tweet the other day and it was about EVMs and MEVs and I was like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. And I realized that I need to learn something. So today we're going to have Sarah. I'm just going to leave it at Sarah. And she's not Litecoin Sarah yet. Maybe she'll be Litecoin Sarah someday. But yes, generally, so you're Sarah Satoshi or Satoshi Sarah, one of those two on Twitter. She is, I don't know, she came on about a year ago. She's one of the first people I interviewed. Back then you were in Bitcoin Ladies and you had just come off of Bitcoin Magazine or something like that.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of stuff since then. I had a full-time job at OKX, so I went into like the exchange part of crypto, and then I recently left, and I've been at Gamma since like the beginning days, and then I just joined like full-time. So now I'm like full-on fan account Gamma.
Okay, well, so what's interesting about you know, you broke the barrier of going to the Litecoin Summit. I got to meet you there, and I was realizing because we were just talking about this before we did the interview. Like I went there and like I've done videos on Twitter, and so I was under the assumption like, well, she's probably gonna know who I am, like conceitedly, because she'd been in my spaces enough. And I went there and I was like, oh, hey, Sarah, what's up? And you were like, I have to imagine you were probably like, who is this guy? Like you probably had no idea who I was.
I recognized your voice and not your face, and so I was
all right.
Like,
Interesting. All right. Well, I didn't know that it was that distinct in such a short amount of time. But you were like, "Oh, hey, give me a hug," and I'm like, "Wait, she probably didn't know who I am." So I felt weird in that. But anyway, so what I'm hoping today is that I want you to be able to maybe take us from somebody hypothetically that might be me that has has basically ignored Ethereum, not through any sort of animosity, but just sort of. I think I was told it was kind of stupid from day one, and I just listened to that. And now that all this stuff is moving on to Bitcoin and moving on to Litecoin, I need some background, some definitions. And I don't know, would you consider yourself, would it be like an Etherean?
I don't think so. I would still say that I'm a Bitcoin person. Yeah, I really wish that the term like Bitcoin maxi wasn't so off-putting because I think when I meet people in person, I'm like, oh, I work in Bitcoin. And they're like, oh, you must be a Bitcoin maxi. I'm like, no, please don't insult me like that. Like, absolutely not. I think like, yeah, I don't know. I work mostly in Bitcoin. I've always only really worked in Bitcoin, and I think there's nothing wrong with exploring other blockchains. And in fact, that is highly encouraged so that you can see what other parts of the crypto ecosystem is doing. And then, at some point, maybe those applications can move onto Bitcoin, which was sort of the whole point of, I think, the stacks ecosystem, which is what I got into like first after Bitcoin. So I wasn't really interested in Ethereum because, like you said, everyone was like, fuck Ethereum, excuse my French.
Right.
Um, all these shit coins are, scams or whatever. Don't look into them. Everything's going to be built on Bitcoin. I think that was the old like Bitcoin maxi thought process. It was like, we love Bitcoin. And so all these things are going to be on Bitcoin. Now it's more like, there are JPEGs on Bitcoin. Like, no
How
thanks.
dare
My
you? Yeah.
nodes are not going to host your JPEGs and shitcoin like tokens and whatever. So a lot has changed since I think just a few years ago.
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny because I think that was always my mindset when I remember when NFTs first came around. Well, it's not first, but like let's say early 21. And I had
Mm.
an old coworker call me like out of the blue, and she's like, "Should I know you're into Bitcoin, Litecoin, all that stuff. Like, what do you think about NFTs?" And I'm like, I they make no sense to me. They're ridiculous, right? Like, who would pay that kind of money?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I probably misled her. She's probably mad. She's probably mad at me today because she bought it at the time because she was all into Gary V or whatever. But
Mm.
I realized it was like over time, it's kind of undeniable that these things aren't going away. Now, whether
Yeah.
they have this mass value of they're going to be worth whatever, some of them are worth $100,000 or millions of dollars. That may not be the long term thing, but there's certainly something going on that is kind of undeniable. And I get to
Hmm.
brainstorming about what can you do with these tools, like how are businesses going to utilize these tokens, this ability to make tokens, um, and maybe the shift to putting them on like chains that are going to be
Yeah.
here forever, these immutable chains to Bitcoin and Litecoin. That may be the
Yeah.
thing that brings people in and feel more comfortable to actually use them, right?
Yeah, I like talking about theory and like what could be like the best use cases of NFTs and just assets on chain. Um, I think like right now, obviously, even with ordinals, which are a very new way of having like NFTs on
Yeah.
Bitcoin, it's filled with a lot of like, I don't want to say,
You've already used the bad
bad
words. You
or
might as well just use them.
there's it's like there's a lot of noise on every single blockchain when it comes to NFTs or any of these things.
Yeah.
I think especially like in, you know, legacy NFT blockchains like Ethereum and Solana and whatnot, but also in Bitcoin. It's not that like just because we now have like NFT capabilities on Bitcoin that they're all going to be like the best application of what
Right.
could be used as NFTs. They're still just like pixelated JPEGs that we're trading back and forth for tens of thousands, if not millions, potentially, of dollars, which is ridiculous sounding. And yes, does not necessarily put forth like the best potential application or use case of NFTs. But that's kind of the point of these early stages of building. You want to build the tools and the communities and the just the sentiment for people to want to go and experiment and want to have fun with these tools so that one day in the future, like there's legitimacy around it, you know. I think one thing that I like to think about as something that is like a positive application, for instance, of NFTs, perhaps, and I have no idea how this would actually work, but given that, AI today is really, really good, it can create a
Yeah.
lot of fake images, fake stories, and it's honestly very hard to tell whether or not something is AI generated sometimes. So, one way to potentially combat that would be with NFTs, you know, and the details of that
Well,
are
but
complex
what
and
if you put an AI image on an NFT? It's still an AI
you
image.
can, yeah, people do that all the time. And
Yeah.
so there would have to be some sort of like direct from like journalist camera
Yep.
hardware to the blockchain, like complicated little things like that. But I think thinking about these potential applications is what makes like pursuing any of this interesting today. It's not like
Yeah.
the end goal is not just to, trade
JPEGs. Yeah.
JPEGs on a
Yeah. Yeah.
blockchain. It's much deeper than that, and it can go much deeper than that.
Well, so let's before we, because I mean, I think you gave a good preview. I'm gonna come from the side of like maybe there's people who are watching this that literally don't know what NFTs are. I think most people do, but I want to do like a beginners. Just let's do a little glossary, some definitions. Right? So an NFT,
Mm,
you tell me where I'm wrong. NFT is essentially, um, I when I buy an NFT on Litecoin right now, OmniLite, the image itself is not on Litecoin. It's being stored generally on the IPFS, right? The Interplanetary File System, which is
yeah, yeah, like an outside decentralized file storage
right. And the
platform.
images are like generally, I've learned IPFS was a new thing to me. Like the image is fragmented into various people's hard drives and then gets reassembled based on me calling that image up, right? Kind of.
Something like that. I have no idea how it actually works, but that
Okay.
sounds about right,
All right, let's
Yeah,
just go
it
with that.
works.
We'll just
So,
go with that.
yeah.
So, I just basically have a marker or some sort of validation that says this I do own this, a
Mhm.
certificate of authenticity, so to speak, and
Yeah.
that it can't be just like your coins can't be just stolen from you, or you can't. It's same permissionless. Everything's the exact same as using the coins as far as transmitting it and passing ownership and everything else is very similar to using like your core Litecoin coins, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's an NFT. So what is let's start with ERC tokens because they've been around, I would say, what are 80, maybe 50% of what you so lovingly called shit coins are ERC tokens. And then like there's Binance tokens too, but ERC's what's the big daddy, we'll call it.
So there's a lot of like different blockchains that all have their own tokens.
Right.
ERC20 tokens are just tokens that are created on Ethereum. Um, BRC20 tokens is a new thing as well,
Yep.
which are just like tokens created on Bitcoin. And so, like, anyone can create a token. ERC20, the standard, makes it really easy for anyone to just like launch and release a token, which is why naturally the market gets so saturated with random meme coins popping up like every second of every day, just because it's so much more accessible now. Um,
Well, the
yeah,
difference
that
with
kind of.
ERC is that Ethereum has they have these marketplaces, right? So you can create a token and be on a marketplace like instantly, essentially. It can be
Kind
tradable within the Ethereum system, correct?
kind of. So there's like different and I think this goes with like different jurisdictions and legality and all that as well.
Okay.
There are ways to like trade tokens over like DeFi networks,
Right.
which I think is the majority of where that activity is happening. And then when tokens get, popular enough, that's when they get considered by they're not marketplaces but exchanges to be
Yeah.
listed as these tradable fungible tokens, and we see a lot of these tokens obviously like getting on marketplaces, or not, sorry, not marketplaces, exchanges, getting rugged, or being on like DeFi exchanges and being rugged, and all this fun
Well, so
stuff
it's something
that's
like
not so
usually it's
fun.
Uniswap or Pancake Swap or something, right? Like that, where because I've
Like
been there.
there are so many, like there are
Right.
so many. I think Uniswap is one of the more reputable ones.
Yep.
They deal a lot more in like bigger tokens that you would want to, exchange, like stable coins, for instance, on Ethereum.
I've looked at some of those. I'm not sure if it was Uniswap. It might have been Pancake Swap. I think Pancake Swap has all the just total garbage. But
But there's a
you go
lot of
you
swaps.
go to trade, you go like, all right, I want to trade my USDC
Mhm.
for, then you pull up the other list of what you're able to trade for. Yeah, and it's just endless. It's I don't even know, you don't even know what
Yeah.
any of them are. And so, but I
And
think that's what's interesting is the marketplace is that it doesn't require like an exchange to christen it in a way. Like back in the day, it was like you had to get onto Binance or Coinbase to be legitimate in some way to where you could actually generate volume, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and pretty much, I mean, none of these have like fiat on or off ramps. So it's pretty much just exchanging. Like if I wanted to exchange on the Ethereum network, I could exchange Ethereum for USDC or Tether or Wrapped Bitcoin. Those are some of the more like stable ones,
Right.
air quotes stable.
Yeah.
And then there are also just hundreds of ERC20 tokens that you could swap with.
So the
As
BRC.
yeah,
So let's move on. I'm going to do the, so that's the Ethereum world, we'll call it,
yeah.
right? And I'm sure there's more going on. Like here, tell me if I'm right on these two things. EVM is Ethereum Virtual Machine. Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Now I don't know what that is yet, but maybe you can explain that. And then MEV. This is the one I don't understand. Maybe they're not even related. Minor extracted value.
Yeah, those are all terms I think that are un like get more complicated and deeper into like how the Ethereum ecosystem works and how people can actually build applications on those. So like
Okay.
pretty irrelevant to the general just like
All right.
NFT conversation. If we want to keep it simple, we can just like stick to talking about NFTs, and then
Yeah, let's
also
ignore
like
that then.
yeah, yeah. Definitely a conversation for someone who is like an Ethereum DeFi expert, I would say.
Okay, okay. I don't need to know about all that yet. I was just curious because I read some
Yeah,
tweet
yeah,
yesterday. Like I said, like this guy dropped like 6 acronyms, and I'm like, I don't even know that I know half of these. I have no idea. Like I couldn't read it. It was like literally a foreign language. I
yeah.
couldn't understand it.
There's a lot.
It's like he was total degen, right? Um,
Yeah.
okay, so let's go and do ordinals and inscriptions, right? So they're not the same thing, but they're kind of the same thing. So what is an
So
ordinal?
yeah, so you know how like on, as you were saying, on other NFT blockchains, let's just take Ethereum for instance, your NFT, your image, is not stored on Ethereum. It's stored on a decentralized file storage system like IPFS. So, what your NFT is really then, it's just an on chain pointer to that image on IPFS. For ordinals, which is NFTs on Bitcoin, they are actually like you can inscribe your assets directly onto a Satoshi on chain. So
Right.
you're not dealing with external file storage unless your files are too big and you want to do a workaround. But the thing with the benefit with ordinal inscriptions is that you can actually have data directly on to Bitcoin itself.
Right.
And the way that you can do that is because when, earlier this year, Casey released Ordinal Theory, and Ordinal Theory essentially just states that uh, you can order the you can order each individual Satoshi and keep track of them.
Okay.
and therefore you can actually inscribe and keep track of data onto each individual Satoshi. The reason why it would be like, let me give you an analogy. So Bitcoin is fungible, right?
Mm,
Satoshis are
to a
fungible.
degree. To a degree, yeah.
You like, well, I mean, in application, like you can send one Bitcoin to someone
Right.
else, they can send you a Bitcoin back. It doesn't really matter like what is which Satoshis they sent. You
Right. Right.
still get one Bitcoin. When you're like at the store and you're paying for something with like a $10 bill in cash, they're not asking you for a specific bill. They just want
Like a serial
$10.
number. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So what ordinal theory does is it keeps track of those serial numbers and gives like a significance to them. So if I were to demand that you pay me a $10 bill with this specific serial number on it, or like a rare penny or something like that, that
Right.
would be like the cash equivalent of ordinal inscriptions, where now suddenly you have these satoshis that are given like extraneous value based on their ordering. So for instance, if I owned like a rare satoshi, which would be maybe something that has like all the same number, or the satoshi is the first one that's mined after a halving, or it's
So
the
can I ask you? So is like is are they being ordered like literally as in the first block mined by Satoshi himself, the first 50 coins? That's whatever
Mhm.
50
Yeah.
50 billion was that 50, that'd be like 5 billion or something like that. 5 billion Satoshis. Are they all Satoshi number one? Like that's what I'm not. Or is it just kind of like whoever applies to be Satoshi number one first gets to have that?
No.
Okay.
No, so it's like I can have in my possession an uncommon Satoshi, and then I can choose to inscribe that Satoshi because I know that it's a special Satoshi and I don't want to spend it. The inscription parts actually to this like part of the conversation is completely irrelevant.
Yep.
Just the sats alone and their ordering gives them like a non-fungible significance to that. It would be like if we genuinely valued the serial numbers on like the $1 bill or something,
Right.
and I had a dollar bill that was like the first print after like the first dollar to be printed during like a significant
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying.
printing or
Or yeah,
something.
like one of the
Yeah.
Satoshis used to buy the pizza back in 2010 or whatever it was, right?
Or
Like
like
something
one
silly
of
like
the first Satoshis mined to buy that pizza.
yeah.
That
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like as new Bitcoin blocks are released, like new Satoshis are released, and then those will also somehow like get some sort of significance. And then like next year or like later this year when we have another uh like Bitcoin halving, the first Satoshi to come out of that first block is gonna be like rarer than all the rest of them because it's part
All
of
right.
like a significant event or something. So,
But
I
this
mean,
isn't
these
like
are obviously
real, right?
all like, it's like all arbitrarily ascribed values,
Right, right, yeah.
but people find value in them, right? And so now for the inscription parts, because we can keep track of individual Satoshis and we can send and like
Order
receive
them,
those
yeah.
specific
And
ones,
and probably more
um,
importantly, isolate them, right? They
yeah.
found a way so that I can like have a wallet that says, look, do not spend this particular Satoshi.
Yeah, so that kind of comes into play when we're talking about what wallet providers need to do in order to make sure that you're not spending that special Satoshi
Okay, well
on
let's
like
ignore that
a
then.
fee or something.
Keep going where you were
Yeah.
going. I distracted you. Sorry. So
No, no,
inscription.
no. So yeah, so with inscriptions, I mean like you can inscribe just onto Bitcoin and you can inscribe a normal collection. A lot of like NFT collections and artists that we have seen on Gamma and on just like ordinals in general are just people who want to release very similar to like collections that they would release on Ethereum, just onto Bitcoin because of, you know, it's Bitcoin and it's cool and it's new and it actually goes on chain. The special Satoshis are when people want to inscribe onto like uncommon sats or rare sats or exotic sats. And there's like this whole ranking system for it.
Right.
And those like inscriptions could sell for a lot more just because they're already on a rare Satoshi. And
Right.
then there's also another sort of rarity ranking in terms of like the order of inscriptions that was created. So the 1 millionth inscription, for instance, was like someone just wrote the word piggy,
Okay.
and that is probably going to be more valuable just because it was the 1 millionth thing that was
Right.
inscribed.
Yeah, I
And
remember
I
the
think
race
there's
was to get
actually,
under 100,000 or something, right? For the first
yeah, there
10,000
was
was
like this
cool. Yeah.
whole race about it. I personally don't think that it like matters too much, whether you inscribe it early on or just like now. But just because in general we are all very early. But that's what a lot of people have been doing. They've been like pre-inscribing just as early as they can to try and sell collections to say that they got in, you know, under
Right.
100K or 1 million of like the first ever inscriptions.
So
So,
there can only ever be, let's see, 21 million times 100 million, like, I don't
100
know, 21 quadrillion uh inscriptions, and then they'll run out.
yeah,
So
yeah.
eventually,
So,
nothing to worry about. That'll only take 100 years to actually pass all those transactions through, right? So, so this is
yeah.
something interesting that I heard happening. So, Charlie Lee, everybody knows Charlie. So he was part of this whole on-chain monkeys, right? Which was like they created only one transaction, but there's like parent and child transactions where it's like
Mm.
your later inscriptions just have to point in some way to the parent inscription, and they are considered part of a collection, right? Because Gamma does collections, right? Don't you guys sell collections?
Yeah, so marketplace collections are kind of more so done in a centralized manner, and
Yep.
those are by marketplace. And that's just because like the thing with inscriptions is we can't put things into necessarily a collection unless we know that you are the person who made the inscriptions. Otherwise, like anyone can kind of just claim, hey,
Right.
these are all my inscriptions, put them into a collection for me. And so we have to like go in and sort of vet that, okay, you are the creator of this collection. You want it to have a collection. Like we'll get that sorted for you, but it's not that anyone can just like go and create one. And so that's all on the side of marketplaces, and that
Okay.
burden is on every marketplace and not just us. And so if you wanted to create a collection, you would like, and you wanted it on every marketplace, you would go to every marketplace and be like, hey, I want my inscriptions in a collection, and then I want you to just sell these, you know,
Is
I
there
want
a
to sell
way?
these.
Is there a way to like put a unique signature within the inscription that kind of makes them all linked together? That maybe would be secret to you. You know what I mean? So like maybe a a bit of code that just isn't visible necessarily, but
No,
that
yeah,
I could
people
say, hey,
can
look, these
get
are all
really
linked because I
creative
did.
with it.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think I've seen people do similar things. I don't necessarily know that they could be kept private, but it's something that can be done if
Right.
you're technically savvy and creative about it. Yeah.
All right. I'm still looking for the value because I'm amazed. You just wonder how much, like, it felt like to me like a vanity thing. And I was thinking about I knew I was going to talk to you today, and I was like, as much as I hate to admit it, I think you're actually 2 generations behind me. I consider myself Gen X, and I know you're Gen Z, and I'm like, man, that feels weird to say
Yeah.
that, but I I think there's like realizing that growing up in an era where like there is kind of clout behind owning, so like my kid loves Roblox, right? And so for her to
Hmm.
buy certain outfits, or like to see someone who's in this in her space and they've got all the whatever accessories, right? There's like I've been here, I'm like an old dog. Like I know what I'm doing. I play a lot and I invest a lot of my time and energy in this. It's like a badge of honor. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's a little bit of what this is, because I've even found myself, as much as I go, well, there's no real value in the picture, but it is kind of a way to show like I've been around for a while. Or, like I think that like the Taproot Wizards, I think was a good, that was like the first big launch. And I think if you had one of those, it would be kind of like, all right, you've been around a while. It's pretty cool. It's unique. There's a story behind it. I don't know
Yeah.
how long that lasts. Is it kind of like baseball cards where they were cool for a while and now they're really not all that cool? Or maybe they are again. I don't know. But
I mean,
yeah,
yeah. I think that's been true across like all collectible industries. Right now, like obviously the application of NFTs is that they're a collectible. But one additional layer to it that I think physical collectibles like stamps and dolls and baseball cards don't have is that you have like this automatic connection to a digital community where you can connect with and sort of have this common interest with hundreds or thousands of people instantly, uh,
right,
just by owning one something, right? And that's something that's like verifiable ownership, especially if you have some sort of piece in like a bespoke or very popular collection. So for instance, like my first NFT, which I think was very lucky, was a pudgy penguin. And I bought it because I thought it was very cute. I think I got it for like 1 ETH or something. I watched it go all the way down. The project basically died. And then it got like taken over and bought by someone else. And it started like going up again. And by up, I don't mean like price necessarily, but I mean by just like community vibes and culture. And so now they're doing all these amazing things, sort of like licensing like everyone's IP and making like pudgy plushies and working with all these toy companies and doing all this media. And so it's become a full on brand. It's no longer just like we sold some JPEGs. It is a international community and brand that is like selling physical merchandise, is having like in-person get-togethers in all these different places around the world because everyone in the community has a sense of ownership and like wants to contribute value to the project. And that's sort of what's really special, I think, about really good and mature NFT communities like this that you just don't see anywhere else. So that's something I think that not a lot of people can recognize the value in necessarily if they're not in it, if they don't have one. And so, I would say if you are looking to just like buy one NFT, look for a community that really
right.
interests you, and then maybe just like be a part of it and see what happens. And also, like, if, but also know that like you might be spending a lot of money to go and do that, you know, at
But
the
if you
end of
buy,
the
but
day, like,
once you have one pudgy penguin, like, are there people in the community that don't own them yet? They just like everybody, and then they're like, the only way you get in is to buy one. So why would you want to? What would you buy two for? What would be the purpose of having a second one?
like resale value, like
Right.
you think that it's probably going to go up because you can't necessarily ascribe like any sort of objective financial value of this picture of a penguin over this picture of a monkey, but there is this attached community culture value to the specific collection. And if
Right.
you can see that, then presumably, like, not financial advice, but I would probably buy a second penguin just in case, I have to sell it at some point, but I still want to stay in the community. And that's exactly what I did. I got a second one.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Do you want to put them up on screen? Are you like, do you,
Oh my God, sure.
all right. Yeah, go ahead. All right.
Yeah, I don't know how to do this, so I'm gonna figure that out, but we can keep
Present. You just
chatting.
hit present. Remember
One
that
sec, I gotta pull it
key and
up.
peel. Present. Yeah, I want to eventually get into. We haven't even gotten to the BRC tokens yet, and then I want to look at Gamma because, like you said, that's how you make a living, right? So I certainly want to see it, and I'd like to see Gamma. If you want to pull it up even now, maybe that's a good thing to do. If you want to
Oh
pull up
yeah, I
Gamma and
should do
show me
that.
the marketplace, I'm a big like the reason I want to do these. I'm realizing with YouTube, if I'm just going to do an audio interview, like to me, I'll just do the podcast. I think from now on. But when we're doing something live like this, I want to demonstrate this stuff. I don't like.
Yeah,
I hate when people just want to talk about it. It's like, well, here we got this technology. Let's show it off. No, I want to see these dang penguins.
yeah.
Petey the
So
penguin, Mudgy the Pudgy. What are these names? I got to know the names.
so I only named one of them. I'm just gonna show you this guy.
Yeah, here you
His
go.
name is Richard. So this is my penguin. How do I zoom in? There we
All
go.
right.
He looks fabulous.
So you
That's
wrote the
that's why I
bio and
bought him.
everything.
Something like that. We like filled it in. This is like something that the Chubbyverse let us do. So it was a lot of fun. It was super cute. But this is my first NFT on any blockchain.
So what's
So
the backpack? What's this?
oh, these are like special gifts from like the Chubbyverse for completing some of these tasks. So the the Chubby coins, the Chubbyverse, they also have a special place in my heart. Um, but
The
yeah,
chubby
I'm a
corn.
big
Those are the
fan.
unicorns, right? Those are the
Yeah.
unicorns.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like the cute NFTs. So that's how they get me.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
gamification I think is what is interesting to me. Like what did Udi do these stupid quests, right? Like film
Yeah,
yourself doing
yeah.
whatever and you can win a like that's clever.
Yeah.
It's smart marketing and yeah, it's almost like
Yeah.
it becomes very much like an initiation into something. You're like
For
if you hold
sure.
this thing, you know that that other person went through the same trials that you went through.
Yeah, like
You
you
know
have
what I'm
a
saying?
mutual understanding of like why you're here and the vibes are usually on point if you like a community. So I love all the communities that I'm a part of.
Is
And
there
then
are there NFT communities that are like anti NFT, where they're like the subculture, the like yeah, like the punk culture, right?
probably,
Because like
probably.
punk was like or like grunge music when I was growing up was like anti hair metal. It was designed to be like I hate the things that exist, so I'm going to create another form of it. So I'm still making
Mm.
rock music, but I'm kind of a counterculture. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like NFTs on Bitcoin are sort of symbolic of counterculture as well. It's like a
Yeah.
lot of Bitcoiners who are like, I refuse to participate in shitcoin JPEGs are now like, you know, yeah, like NFTs on Bitcoin, that's okay because it's on Bitcoin. So, and I think the Bitcoin maxis are split about this stuff. Like some of them love like love the idea of ordinals, some of them hate it. So
That
you
was the
got a
most
variety there.
we talked about this just last night when like Adam Back, I you can say
Hmm.
whatever you want to think about him, but when he right away is talking about, well, we need to find a way to censor these out. And it was like, how can you be a part of Bitcoin and
Yeah,
think censorship is any part of the equation? Like
yeah.
that's
I
the
don't think
point.
that's not a very Bitcoiner stance to take, but
Well,
say each their
it
own.
depends who you're Bitcoining about. Well, I mean, I get it because I mean, look, to me as a Litecoiner, this is all gravy. It's
Mm,
$5.82 to get on a block right now. It's a buck. It's a tenth of a penny on Litecoin, and so people are inscribing. What's been really cool with
yeah.
Litecoin is our transactions are going up. Wow, MWeb, what? Right now there's like 6 MWeb transactions in this most recent block. But
Oh,
we're
that's
getting,
cool.
I would say, Litecoin volume's probably up 2 or 3 times since this happened as well. And I'm hopeful. We have a lot of conversations about this because we have the same type of people in Litecoin that are just like, this is all garbage. This is about stateless money. Like, let's leave all this crap out of here. But the reality is, the people who are on Bitcoin using this, if they come over to Litecoin to experiment,
Yeah.
once they do it, just like when I did an NFT for the first time, once you do it, you start going, well, why am I paying $5 to be on Bitcoin if I get to do this? I could build my same culture and get it and move these things around for a tenth of a penny rather than $5 or $10 every single time. Like it starts to become, people
Mhm.
understand why you're doing it. And I think
Yeah.
people are I'm amazed how little Litecoin, I guess, awareness there is.
Yeah, I would love to see the Litecoiners get into this because normally when things happen, they happen on Litecoin and not on Bitcoin, you know?
First, you
Uh,
mean?
First, but also period, as we've seen more recently,
Right.
um, with MWeb and whatnot. But yeah, I would be hopeful to see that
Yeah,
Litecoiners
no,
kind of.
well, so you may not know this. So I don't know if you remember coming to spaces, but Indigo, who you met probably at Litecoin, you may not have realized it
Mhm.
was him. He tried to stay anonymous, but he kind of coordinated these bounties to say like, hey, Ordinals is on Bitcoin. If you can get it onto Litecoin, I think it was something like maybe 20 Litecoin, which, a couple $1,000. That's a big incentive for people. And so
Mm,
that's what kind of kicked off Ordinals on Litecoin. And since that, we've done a couple other bounties. And I think the development, just having a few people from that world of NFTs and
yeah.
Ordinals to start building, and they've started to recruit people. And so, yeah, now these tokens are on Litecoin, and that's why we're seeing the activity on Litecoin. That's to me is huge, even if, because I argue with these people that don't think it's a big deal. I think bringing people, I don't care where you come from, just coming in to experience it. And you're an interesting case because it's been shocking how few people anymore want to take that step from, I'm a Bitcoiner, but I'll go hang out with Litecoiners. I see the value in Litecoin. I understand why Litecoin exists. It's like they just
Yeah.
don't talk about it. Like literally, it's like don't talk about Litecoin.
I don't
You know what I
yeah, I
mean?
don't know why people are like that. I think it's very close-minded. And I mean, like, I have opinions on every single blockchain. That doesn't mean I'm gonna not be friends with them or not talk to them, you
Well,
know?
I think, I guess if I had to be a conspiracy theorist, I think it's because as time goes on, in particular, there's really nothing that Bitcoin does uniquely that Litecoin doesn't do. It's
Mm,
really just the narrative of it's an only a one coin world and everything's going to go on Lightning. And like, if we start acknowledging that, yeah, I mean, Litecoin's kind of the same thing, then all that kind of falls apart. You know what I mean?
I would say, like, the finish line hasn't been crossed yet, and we shouldn't declare winners necessarily,
No,
uh
it's a free market. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly, and we're yet to see what's going to happen, especially with something like this. I mean, we're so early. Ordinals have been out for like a few months, so
I ultimately think this is one of the better things that's happened to Bitcoin. I think, and to have two guys, Eric and Udi, be like the
yeah,
drivers
I
of it,
agree.
are
Yep.
they're just the right personalities to just
Yes.
blow the. I think it's become a bit of the maxis are. It's kind of become a joke. Like we've all felt it for a long time, but we're finally feeling like, ha,
Finally, like
you
the
were
joke's on
wrong,
them.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
you're wrong, right? All these narratives that you've been delivering on and spending years saying NFTs are garbage, but it's like it's literally like right in your face, like eat it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a little bit of like we're all laughing at them together, and
Yeah.
trust me, I'm waiting for the day where Litecoin's just worth like a 1% of Bitcoin. It's like, okay, we've reversed the trend. People are using it. I think the day is coming where Litecoin is going to surpass Bitcoin in transactions because of stuff like this. Because Bitcoin literally can't. There's only X amount to be done. So to see real world use surpass Bitcoin, I think will be a big day for us to go, yes, it's actually happening the way we thought it would happen. You know?
Yeah. Well, I hope to see, what happens next
Well, it will
in
happen because
regards
it
to all
because
that.
you can't, unless Bitcoin goes to 2 megabyte blocks, which I don't think is ever happening, but you can only do X amount of transactions a day, and that's it. And they've already reached the cap, so
Mm.
we've
Yeah.
got 4x that plus MWeb. Jesus. All right, my Litecoin rant is over. Let's hear about Gamma. So
Yeah. So
this is an exchange.
no, no, not
Uh,
not an
got it.
exchange. Very important distinction. Gamma is a marketplace, and also a home for creator tools to
Okay.
create NFTs on Bitcoin in two different ways, on stacks or as ordinals. Not an exchange. We do not deal in fungible tokens. So that is something that I have to say, just because I think recently a lot of people have been conflating the two.
Okay. Well, I
Um,
need to back up for a second here. So, okay, I'm when I said exchange, I meant like marketplace. I meant a place I can go buy the NFTs. There's collections.
yeah, yeah,
So fair
yeah.
enough. But what do you mean by you don't accept fungible
So,
money?
so
What?
like fungible stuff is something that we just like don't process because you would need, I don't know, like all these legal things, like a money transmitter license
Oh,
or
so you don't take like
whatever.
US dollars.
Mm-mm.
You just take,
No.
yeah. I just needed an example of what you meant.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like what we just implemented was a way for people to buy Bitcoin. So you can like buy Bitcoin. You have to KYC, but it's a really easy way to buy Bitcoin and just like top up your Bitcoin wallet that you've already connected to Gamma. So this isn't like handled by us. This is like an external sort of
Yeah,
thing.
like that Moon Pay or something
Yeah.
like that does it. Okay.
So we only basically help facilitate transactions of like non-fungible, unique digital assets. So I think like the Bitcoin Magazine one, obviously, like very important milestone, just because Bitcoin Magazine was sort of the hallmark of extreme Bitcoin maxis who are against things like this.
Right.
And so for them to, and I was speaking to their team too, and they are very much split themselves as well as the community um, in
Is this a
terms
little
of
bit
like,
extra juice for you because of then you used to work there and
oh yeah, for sure. It's very exciting for me to watch this play out. But yeah, so
I gotta ask you something because you said it, you made an interesting point earlier. You said we don't take fungible money. Do you mean non-fungible money? Wait,
or
because you take
we don't
Bitcoin.
deal in like sending and trading fungible tokens. If that makes
Yeah,
sense. So you can't like
you're saying Bitcoin's not fungible?
well, so
It's a joke.
Bitcoin as an inscription would suddenly make it like non-fungible. And so we're just selling like or not we're not selling it. We're facilitating this like transaction as a marketplace for people to be able to buy like the non-fungible assets. BRC20 tokens would be something that's like fungible, where you would not be able to trade that with us. I know like other marketplaces are doing it. We're not touching it. It's like
Okay.
not legally something that we're
Because you're
gonna
not sure,
touch.
because we're really not sure what these things are yet.
Pretty much, yeah, that's the stance. And like the
Interesting.
way that BRC20 tokens are minted is through inscriptions, but we have an inscription service. You're not going to get BRC20 tokens. You're just going to get the inscription that you are, you know, paying for. You're paying the block space fees for.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. So back to this thing. This I think was pretty significant just because culturally, Bitcoin maxi is now selling NFTs on Bitcoin. We
Right.
did a Dutch auction for them, and so a
Can you
lot of these
explain
are
that?
still on
Because
sale. Yeah, yeah.
that
Dutch
was a new
auction is
phrase to
like
me. Yeah.
we start the we start the price at like 10 Bitcoin, for instance. And then for every block that passes by, we reduce that price by half a Bitcoin. And whoever bids first, like you're basically in this game theory of bidding before everyone else bids or bidding like a higher price than everyone else. Because if you bid under the person who bids a higher price than you, then you won't receive it, you know. So that's what we set up for them here is a Dutch
Okay.
auction. And then the point 0.2 Bitcoin price is just the floor, and the rest of these are for sale. I think the highest one we sold for was issue one. We sold it for I think 1.25 Bitcoin. Now they've like listed it. You know,
Right.
some of these aren't for sale. Some of them have listed for random,
Point two, huh? That
arbitrary,
looks like a deal. That one's
very high
only
amounts.
six
Yeah,
grand.
I think some of these are just like the floor prices that they're being
Right.
sold for now. Yeah, so I mean, like this, I think just culturally very significant. But we're going to be releasing like more auction features for everyone in like the next 2 weeks when we go to Miami. So that'll be fun and something to look out for. Otherwise, you can explore Gamma, and then there's also like the stacks side of things where it's more or
That's
less
just
like
NFTs.
similar to like any other blockchain, like Ethereum NFTs, um,
Those are
which
not
are
as
like stored on
liquid.
IPFS. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
I got
back
a
to
question.
ordinals.
So
Yeah.
I know because these are some things I had written down about, like, to ask you about. So Stacks, I know, is a shit. I don't even know what to say it is. Is it? It's a separate chain, obviously. Are
Mhm.
they? Is that from? Is that also part of? Who am I thinking of? Our buddy, our Atom back buddy. Is that related? What's the one that's mined alongside of Bitcoin? Like, and that's I'm thinking of Liquid. Never mind. So, but Stacks has been around a long time, right? And then
Mhm.
there used to be Counterparty, I believe, and the other one is RGB. What is RGB versus Stacks? What are the difference in those two?
So, I don't know too much about RGB. I think, like, to describe stacks, it's its own L1 that's
Mm-hmm.
tied to Bitcoin. It's not like a side chain like Liquid is. It's not a layer two like Lightning is. I think RGB is, I don't know, like one of those, like a layer two or something. Actually, like don't even take my word on it. I
Okay,
actually
yeah,
know like nothing about RGB.
I don't hear about that as much. I mean, I've heard of Stacks. I hear about Stacks a lot, and so they have. I mean, the
Yeah,
same. Yeah, they get mined. It's like mined the same way, isn't it?
so Stacks is it's like this, I don't know how to describe it. The way that I tell people about Stacks, not necessarily about like how it's mined, but the way that it's secured is that every single Stacks transaction is like settled onto Bitcoin. Like a stack of Stacks blocks are like inserted into Bitcoin, and then that's how you can scale, having like smart contracts on
Okay.
Bitcoin basically. So
Okay.
the TLDR is if Bitcoin dies, then Stacks dies. Like Stacks is completely dependent on Bitcoin, and Stacks' security model is dependent on Bitcoin. So
Okay.
if you're waiting for like Stacks blocks to settle, you basically have to wait for like Bitcoin to settle until those transactions confirm.
So that would be. It would probably be very similar to MWeb on Litecoin, in that you kind of are gathering all these transactions and putting them into one large transaction. Is that kind of what's going on?
I don't think that's exactly what it is because it's not like privacy obscuring or anything.
Well, I understand. I'm just
It's
trying to give the model of it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I would definitely like look it up and like look at the diagrams that they have,
Okay.
just like on Stocks' website. Yeah, I'm not the best like person to explain all the technical intricacies
No,
about
that's all
all of
right.
these, but yeah, just in general, like that's the vibe of it. Stacks blocks settle onto Bitcoin blocks. And so Stacks NFTs are secured by Bitcoin. And so we call them like NFTs secured by Bitcoin.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. So
Uh,
so you're not having to worry that. I think one of the biggest strengths of both Bitcoin and Litecoin is the mining networks. These are so old and so robust.
yeah,
Relying on that security is really what I've always felt like. It surprises me people would want an NFT on Solana because you're like, it could be gone in 2 years. So what's you need? The one thing you want is to know you can retrieve this thing in the future,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so I think like earlier we were talking about like uncommon sats or like satoshis that are have some like special significance to them because
Yeah.
of like, the order that they're mined in. And so these are some of the uncommon satoshis that have like inscriptions on them. Let's just choose this pixel cat.
So does it give
So
you a story as to why that ordinal is unique? Like, because that number doesn't mean anything to me as an outsider.
so if we look at think
Oh my gosh.
rarity. Okay, so here's basically this chart that we refer to when we're talking about like the rarity of a Satoshi. Uh,
Mm,
Uncommon Satoshis are a part of this big collection, and it can it's not a collection necessarily. It's just like we've aggregated every single inscription that has been inscribed onto an uncommon Satoshi.
what
And
makes it uncommon?
well, we could read about it. So
Oh my word.
uncommon Satoshis, for instance, it's the first sat in a block.
I'm sorry. All right. This is crazy to me. This is like
Yeah, yeah, it is
numerology.
crazy.
This is
Yeah.
crazy.
So an uncommon Satoshi would be like every single first Satoshi that is mined in each fresh block, including
Okay.
all the past blocks. So if you happen to have an uncommon Satoshi, that could be like worth something. And you
Yeah,
can
you may not
check
even know it. Yeah. Okay.
exactly. You can check if you have an uncommon Satoshi by just like going to the Ordinal Theory handbook, and they have all these steps you can follow to do some stuff on your terminal and check, which I have not done. But yeah, and then there are all these other rankings like rare Satoshis. Okay, it's the first sat in a block and also part of the first block after and
Okay.
after a difficulty adjustment period, like every 2 weeks or so. An epic one would be like it's the first block in a halving. Um, and
Oh,
then
oh
a
my gosh.
legendary would be like the first sat in
First block and a first
a
halving. Okay.
yeah, after
Well,
a difficulty adjustment and also a
I
halving.
mean, I have to already hack your system in it here. How could it be the first block in a halving and not the first block in a difficulty adjustment?
Because not all difficulty adjustments align with halvings.
They don't?
Not necessarily.
Oh, I guess I assumed it did, but maybe I guess I'm going to take your word for it. You've obviously done the work here over at Gamma.
Well, now you're making me doubt myself. Now I'm confused.
Well, it's
Okay.
every 2000, however many
Every
blocks, and whatever. Don't worry about it. I don't want to dig into this.
does the math work out? Actually, I have no idea. This is what I just assumed. I assume like I don't think that the difficulty adjustment necessarily lines up exactly with the
It's every X
halving,
amount of
does
blocks. So
it?
maybe it is rare. It is maybe it obviously I would guess it does. Whoever created this obviously has put their work in.
I'm sure they've thought about it. So yeah, but the point is like, yeah, there are all these ways to ascribe like
Wait,
rarity
what's mythical? I
levels.
want to know what mythical. The first sat of the Genesis block? Oh, first sat in a block, first block in a difficulty. So that's yeah. So that because it said down there, there's one that exists. Okay, I get it. All right.
Yeah.
And that's if Satoshi decides he's gonna. God, that would be amazing. That would blow up the world of crypto.
Yeah,
If
that
Satoshi,
would be mythic.
after 13 years, he he mints a
Yeah.
bored ape onto the first Satoshi.
Yeah, no. I hope for all of our sakes that that never happens. But yeah, so that's
That's
that's what makes
interesting.
this a little bit extra fun, to have these uncommon sets. But then otherwise, like, you can just explore some of the collections that we have up, and if you wanted to create an inscription for yourself, you can do so. It's really easy and it's free on Gamma for single inscriptions. So you can upload an image. It would have to be under 60 kilobytes. That's how small the images are. Recommended
Okay.
10 kilobytes actually.
What is that?
And
Is that the like the pixelated like 8 by 8 or something like that?
no idea, but it's tiny.
Okay.
And we help you like what's the word? Um, we'll like compress your image if it's too large,
Okay.
but you can't, I don't think we accept anything that's over 10 megabytes to be compressed. So you
Okay.
can upload an image up to 10 megabytes, but then we would compress it to
That's kind of
obviously make
cool.
sure that yeah, that it
Are
can
people putting
actually get
like their
inscribed.
PFPs on here?
Um, I've seen it sometimes, but like I would probably just also say because Bitcoin is forever, it's not the same as like putting your PFP like your face onto Ethereum. Like I don't think I would want to have, my picture on Bitcoin. But like your Litecoin underground logo, for instance,
Right.
that would be cool to put onto Bitcoin and also Litecoin.
So I
Uh
did put it on Litecoin. You're gonna laugh at this. And then I was like, because these guys sat here and they walked me through it, and I was like, I'm
yeah.
not a tech guy at all. And so I did it. I was like, oh, cool, I did. It cost me whatever, nothing. And I ended up like later that day, I was having to do something with my computer, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna clear out my wallet because I wanted to I was having some issue, and I was like, I'm just gonna close everything, and I
Mhm.
had some sort of paranoia, and I sent all my coins to my Cake wallet, obviously, and I was like, oh shit, it was in there. So I don't know where it is. I don't know if I still own it. It might still be in this wallet, but I may have moved it,
Yeah.
and it might be gone forever. And if it may have been in the fee, I don't know. If it
Yeah.
is, it is. If it's not, it's burned forever. I'm like, me and Vitalik are kind of the same. We burn this. We have so much. We
Or
just burn it.
not burned, just lost
Yeah,
to
destroyed. No, I purposely
someone.
destroyed it. Well, yeah, it's out
Still
there, right?
exists. It still
Somebody out there
exists,
has it.
but
That's kind of
yeah.
wild.
I think that's the problem with like wallets or like wallets in terms of like ordinal compatibility and Bitcoin. I've seen a lot of wallets coming out saying like, "Oh, we have ordinal support," when all you have is a taproot address. That's not ordinal support. Ordinal support requires like for instance, if we didn't have any of these wallets today that had specific ordinal support, like a place in like Hero Wallet or Xverse, which are the two main wallets that we recommend people use on Gamma.
Right,
If they didn't have like a special dedicated like Ordinals address where you just never send any Bitcoin out from this Ordinals section, you send it out from the Bitcoin separate Bitcoin section, um, then like then you would require a wallet that lets you have coin control, like Sparrow Wallet. It's a lot more complicated, and you would have to manually be like tech savvy enough to understand how you could choose like which sats to send and which
right,
ones to, go to the minor fees. Otherwise, like a lot of people have lost their inscriptions because of this, and it's a sad thing because some of those are like hundreds of thousands of dollars, like with the Bitcoin
right.
banks. You don't want to lose those. So very important to like have a good wallet. You could also just send it to a taproot address, but then never like send anything out of that wallet.
Well, I think what's cool, I actually still have them sitting here from the Litecoin Summit, right? Ballet.
Mm.
They started
Oh
they
yeah,
started
I
doing
have.
something where, which I think is a great way to do it. It's like
Mhm.
create a physical asset, send your whatever, your inscription here, and then you don't have any risk of like especially if I'm using it as a pass somewhere, right? Or I'm a part of a club or whatever it might be.
That's certainly a good workaround. You just like never be able to take it out. If you wanted to take it out, you should probably just restore the wallet itself somewhere else. So like never storing your ordinals with the rest of your Bitcoin is the gist of
Right.
it basically. Just because something offers a taproot address doesn't mean you should use it. Unless it's going to be a completely isolated wallet where you're only storing your ordinals there, you're not ever sending anything out.
It's like
So
I'm going to use an old phrase. You don't don't shit where you eat. Don't shit coin where you eat, right? Don't mix your
yes,
ordinals
no,
with your
yeah,
spending
great,
money.
great, yeah, great phrase. Um,
Don't
yeah,
shit coin where you eat. I love it.
but
Well, okay, what's the holdup with there is a Litecoin community that's creating ordinals. Let's go, Gamma. Let's go.
yeah, I think like we're just really um
I'm sure
our
you have
our
a lot
devs
going on
have
already.
a lot going on. Yeah, I'm like asking them for things every single day, and they're just like, please, we have our sprints. We gotta like do the things that, we're set to do. Um,
Well,
yeah,
something we're
so
committed to, but I think what I mentioned the bounties that I don't know if
mhm,
it was record that Indigo's created and all that. Um, that's something that he and I are trying to work on as a whole in Litecoin, trying to a framework or a way of kind of putting these bounties out there and adopting all these things that are being built on Bitcoin that are open source is it's very natural and it's so Litecoin of us to say let's just copy what they're doing, but the reality is that that's what most programming is anyway, right? It's
mhm,
copying what somebody else did, and so
yeah,
yeah, like to be able to take some things that you guys are doing and hopefully um, build some collections that are of some prominence and makes Gamma go, hey, well, also have our Litecoin on here as well. I think that would be maybe it would be sacrilegious. Again, it's hard to tell anymore. I don't know what the culture of Gamma is, but I'd
I
be
think it's
willing
like
to
it's not the gamma culture, but rather like the rest of the community culture
the
and seeing what
customers.
they want.
Yeah,
Yeah, as well as like with the wallets, because we're sort of at the mercy of just like this checks and balances of wallets keeping up to date, and then marketplaces keeping up to date, and then consumer demand of what it is that they want to see out.
right.
So
Create the
yeah,
demand. I said this to my Litecoiners last week. You got to spend your money. Like when Cake Wallet's only 2% Litecoin, we got to get out and represent. That makes me crazy, right? So
yeah.
if you're not important to them, then they're not going to want. They don't have any incentive to include you. So
Yeah,
that's always been my message, right? Be relevant, be relevant. So
yeah.
well, damn, you gave me a crash course.
We should, so I think you should inscribe your Litecoin Underground logo onto
Well,
onto Bitcoin.
here's actually the two thoughts I had. One is I'm actually so
Mm.
you have my hat. Where's the hat? Let's see it.
I do have your hat. It's
But
somewhere in
that
there.
I'm trying to decide like my Twitter logo is kind of meh, right? It doesn't
Mm.
stand out. It's kind of you can't tell what it is. So I thought I would go to that, but that's actually the London Underground essentially is a their train
Yeah.
station. So that's really a copyrighted thing. I'm probably not supposed to use that. So I've been thinking about I need a new logo and maybe I'll do that and inscribe, but I can't inscribe it on Bitcoin. It would be the first
You
Gamma
you can
collection, so I think.
you can inscribe it on both Bitcoin and Litecoin. I
That's
think it would be
true.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
plus we don't charge fees for it. So
the other thought I had to be kind of cool is like people who are always in Litecoin Underground, like just to create them some sort of badge of being an OG Litecoin
yeah.
Undergrounder, right? And just give them to people because they do come in. I mean, there's people that come into my spaces, and I was telling my wife, I'm like, I mean, I do it, but I get to talk. I'm running the show, so it's like it feeds some sort of weird need of mine to have my opinion
Mm.
out there. Some people just listen. I'm like, you come in every week and just listen like that.
Yeah, you have a radio voice.
Everybody tells. And I'm Clark Kent apparently too, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I should be on the radio. That was my missed calling, but I don't think they make any money. So, and I thought
Maybe
about
like a
underground
Bitcoin
radio or
radio. Yeah. Yeah. You should do like a radio segment on YouTube or something. Or just like you upload all your spaces, right? That's basically a radio
I
segment.
don't.
Oh, not anymore.
I never did. I did them in the podcasts, but I didn't do them as
Oh.
videos. And part of me is because I don't want to put. I mean, I could just put the audio out there, and I've seen some people who take
Hmm.
the screenshot. I don't know. I kind
Yeah.
of want to like the people who come in. I don't want to put them out there. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of feel like
Yeah.
that's not my place to do that. Have some anonymity if they want it, and not. They already don't like talking in a recorded space. A lot of them.
Mm,
You
I
know what I'm
see.
saying?
Yeah. I mean, like you could just record the space and then whoever wants to talk will talk because it's being recorded. So they know that they
True.
have to consent
And
if
then
they're
I'm
gonna.
monetizing their voice, and then it's a whole legal battle.
I don't see it like that. I think people would be excited to like be a part of something, you
Yeah,
know.
maybe you're right. Yeah, I've got some people I that make it. Um, I don't think it would be very entertaining if I didn't have a few of the people that come in consistently, and we've definitely
Mm.
built a rapport with them. But you don't come in anymore, so it's like whatever.
I have I'm so busy. I have a meeting at like 6 o'clock today,
I'm just
so I
messing
can't
with you.
join you.
But all right, so
We
go to gamma.io, check out
Yes.
these Bitcoin collections and copy them and move them onto Litecoin.
And also if you wanna make your first inscription, go to gamma.io/ordinals and then you can upload a poem or a GIF or an image and
Yes.
it'll be fun and it'll be easy. It
Or more
should
importantly, the things
be.
we talked about now is like you mentioned earlier, a picture or something, a great document that you love, or a song
Yeah.
lyric that you think is something that needs to be
Yeah.
there for the rest of time. I think there are a lot of things that use your imagination. What do you want to be around
Yeah.
in 100 years? A note to your kids. Just saying.
That would be very cute. That would
Yeah,
be
right.
very, very cute.
That's where it's gonna go.
Yeah, like a little Bitcoin time capsule.
Yeah,
You could
exactly.
send them the ordinal in 20 years when they grow up.
Yeah, I think there's something there. I think there's something there. Although I never really grew up. So, all right. Well, hey, thank you for coming in, Sarah. I'll end and then we can chat for a second. But thanks
Okay,
for
cool.
thanks for joining me, and maybe we'll do more of these in the
Anytime.
future. All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Sounds good. Hey guys, I just want to take a quick break to show you a very cool tool that's available to you as a Litecoiner called Cake Wallet. They've been on the show a number of times, and what I wanted to do is show you some of the things that are really cool you can do with Cake Wallet. So as you can see, this is my Litecoin wallet. If I wanted to keep other assets on here, I can actually keep other ones in multiple wallets. You can see I have a couple Litecoin and a Monero one, but you can actually store Monero, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Haven on Cake Wallet. The other cool thing you can do that isn't available at all places is down the center here is the exchange button. I can swap between Litecoin and really any of these other assets. I mean, you can see it's a pretty broad range of assets. For you Doge people, we can get some Doge if you want. If you want Decred or Raven, Dash, all that stuff available to you. I only generally stick between these assets because it's easy. It's inside the wallet, right? I don't have to get a new wallet for Dash or something. Other cool things, obviously you can send and receive. It'll give you your history, kind of what you sent, when you sent it, just like any other wallet would. But probably the coolest thing that Cake Wallet has, and is going to be necessary to us because we're at this point losing the Litecoin card, is Cake Pay. So this is in the US only. They're expanding it soon. But basically I can go into here. I can pick anything I want to buy. Let's say I think I used this for AutoZone recently. See, if I use AutoZone, I save 2%. I go in here. I've got a bill for
They tell me at the register it's 26, maybe 42 after tax or something like that. I continue. It says, are you sure you want to do it? Now you can see I saved a couple percent by using it, but as soon as I hit gift card purchase at the bottom there, it'll give me that exact amount gift card. So I spend it the one time, it scans, and it's gone. Very cool feature, and if you're looking to use your crypto, as we like to do at Litecoin, then I would recommend that you do it. So check out CakePay, and thanks for watching.